brings you a special coverage of Princess Anne's visit to Rome.
9 o'clock, we leave for the Polinari. 10:45, luncheon of foreign embassy, opening 5.
Have you searched the grounds?
Every inch, sir, from the attics to the cellar.
The princess story, the exclusive. Did you get it? The princess isn't sick at all and she's out in the tower.
Roman Holiday was a film that launched the career of one of the world's most iconic actresses. From casting to production to affairs, this is a deep dive on all things Roman Holiday. The story for Roman Holiday was originally penned in the mid-40s by Dalton Trumbo, which was then adapted for screen by Ian McClellan Hunter. Trumbo's name would not be credited at the time as he had been blacklisted from Hollywood. Trumbo was one of the original Hollywood 10, a group of film writers and directors blacklisted due to accusations of being communists. So instead, Hunter and Trumbo came to an agreement in which Hunter would take full credit for the script and then send on Trumbo his share of the fees. Ben Hecht, who was known as the Shakespeare of Hollywood, worked on the script in 1951. Hecht was a prolific writer during the golden age of Hollywood. Just some of the scripts he worked on include Notorious, His Girl Friday, Wuthering Heights, Gilda, A Star is Born, Scarface, A Farewell to Arms, and 20th Century. Additional dialogue was then added by John Trindon.
Would you care to make a statement?
What the world needs is a return to sweetness and decency in the souls of its young men.
Moving on to finding a director. Frank Capra was originally signed to direct Roman Holiday. Capra's previous work included A Wonderful Life, It Happened One Night, and Arsenic and Old Lace. It Happened One Night being one of the first romantic comedies and a heavy influence on all future rom-coms. Capra dropped out of the project out of fear of the blacklist. Capra was already under threat from anti-communists, as his films of the 30s and 40s were seen as left-leaning. Capra feared that if it was discovered that he was directing a film by a known communist, he too would be blacklisted. William Wyler was then offered Roman Holiday and he agreed to direct in 1952.
His warmth of human understanding, his sure sense of dramatic values have made William Wyler's name on a motion picture the guarantee of great and enduring entertainment.
By 1952, Wyler was already one of America's most celebrated directors, with 8 Oscar nominations and 2 wins to his name. He'd won Best Director for Mrs. Miniver and The Best Years of Our Lives, both films being critical and commercial successes. The Best Years of Our Lives was also at the time the second highest grossing film after Gone with the Wind. Wyler was known for being a perfectionist, sometimes demanding up to 40 takes for a scene. He was also known for his ability to get brilliant performances from his actors. He had a record for directing 26 Oscar-nominated performances, of which 14 were won. Now that they had a director and a script, they needed a cast. Originally, Elizabeth Taylor and Gene Simmons had been in mind for the role of Princess Anne, but neither were available due to scheduling. So instead, Wyler insisted on casting an unfamiliar European actress to play Anne. He wanted an actress with poise and an aristocratic air, who also had a playful and vulnerable side. He stated, "I don't need a stellar leading lady. I want a girl without an American accent to play the princess. Someone you can believe has been brought up a princess. That's the main requirement, besides acting, looks, and a personality." Audrey Hepburn, being the daughter of a Dutch baroness, was a perfect fit. Roman Holiday was Hepburn's first major role and her introduction to mass audiences globally. Before this, she had only been a bit player for several British films. She was signed to the Associated British Pictures Corporation, however the studio had loaned her out more than they had ever used her. Such was the case for her most substantial role to date in Secret People, where she was on loan to Erling Studios. Hepburn played the role of Nora, a ballet dancer, and was billed as second female lead. The film was directed by Thorold Dickinson, who would also direct Hepburn's screen test for Roman Holiday. On his way to Rome for pre-production scouting, Wyler stopped in London to audition for the role of Anne. A Paramount executive, having seen previous footage of Audrey, urged Wyler to screen test her. Hepburn's screen test took place in Pinewood Studios on the 18th of September in 1951, with Wyler famously telling the director to keep the cameras rolling and capture what she was really like. Unaware of the camera rolling, Audrey recounted her childhood during the war.
And in about 1944, about a year before the end of the war, I was quite capable of performing. And it was a sort of some way in which I could make some contribution, and I did give performances to collect money for the underground, which always needed money.
And what about the Germans? What did they do about it?
Let's know about it.
Upon seeing the screen test, both Paramount and Wyler agreed that she was the perfect Princess Anne, with no other candidates even being considered. Wyler said that everyone in the studios was enthused about the girl, and I'm delighted that we have signed her.
Willie was a great, famous director when I met him, but I didn't really know much about directors. Gregory Peck I knew about. And to do a movie with him, you can imagine what my first picture, what that felt like, you know. In
order to combat an unknown female actress, Wyler knew that he would have to cast a big name as the male lead, Joe Bradley. Cary Grant had been approached for the role by Capra. Grant liked the script but turned it down as he could tell that the film would be about the female lead. In the end, the role of Joel went to Gregory Peck, another one of Hollywood's leading men at the time. Peck's previous films included Gentleman's Agreement, The Gunfighter and Spellbound. Under Peck's contract, he was given solo billing. There is mixed stories on how Audrey's billing was elevated. Some say that Wyler made a decision after watching the dailies, or rough cut, and that he renegotiated Peck's contracts. More stories say that it was Peck who demanded Hepburn be billed equally, as he realised early on that she was going to be a star.
We all knew that this was going to be an important star, and we began to talk off camera about the chance that she might win an Academy Award in her first film.
Audrey herself has stated that it was Peck who wanted her billing.
Something lovely which William Wyler told me not very long before he died. He said, did you know that Greg, during the picture, insisted that you be co-starred with him rather than my name being under the title? I don't know if people realize with what generosity he did that.
My agent said, well, why should you do that? I mean, you've worked for years for this. And I said, George, don't think that I'm being so all-fired generous. This girl is so great. She'll probably win the Academy Award in her first performance, and I'll look like a damn fool if my name is up there on top of the picture by myself.
In the end, Peck is presented first, and then Audrey is introduced, with both getting comparable title cards. Both were given star billing in posters and newspaper ads.
And you know, it was from that test that I was able to design these costumes. Then, after making these costumes, I flew to New York. I actually met Miss Hepburn and made this wardrobe test.
Costuming for the film was done by the amazing Edith Head, who, if you don't know already, she is the most awarded woman in Oscar history and is widely considered the most influential costume designer. Just a few of her previous films included All About Eve, The Heiress, Place in the Sun, Double Indemnity, Sullivan's Travels, Sunset Boulevard, Notorious, and Holiday Inn. Head told the Los Angeles Times in 1954 that Hepburn was a designer's dream, stating she was a girl whose flicker and flair told me at once, here was a girl born to make designers happy. For the majority of the film, Audrey is disguised as a normal girl, so Head made her a simple costume so she wouldn't look any different. Head pointed out the rolled-up sleeves, stating,
In the picture, she had to look casual, informal, and we felt due to the heat of Roman summer, a girl would really do this sort of thing.
Hepburn brought her costumes with her to Rome to save Paramount the import costs.
Rome. By all means, Rome. I will cherish my visit here in memory as long as I live.
Wyler was adamant the film be shot in Rome. It was entirely filmed in Rome, predominantly on location, which was rare for Hollywood productions at the time. Joe's apartment was 51 Via Margutta, and the bedroom was shot at the Palazzo Brancaccio, and the Barber's was at 85 Via della Stamperia. Other locations used include the Spanish Steps, the Colosseum, the Mount of Truth, Via dei Foria Imporelli, Cafe Rocca, the Treviere Fountains, and the Piazza della Rotonda. Some interiors were shot in the Cinecittà studios, the same studios in which Fellini made his films. To accommodate the increase in budget, the film had to be shot in black and white, rather than Wyler's preferred Technicolor.
I only waited to say goodbye.
Goodbye. We've only just met. How about some breakfast?
I'm sorry I haven't time.
Now it's time to move on to the film's production. The start date for the production had to be pushed back to accommodate to Audrey's hectic schedule, as she was performing on the Broadway production of Gigi. Hepburn's last performance was on the 31st of May and as soon as it was over, she began her travel. She stopped in Paris for a short holiday with her fiancé James Hansen before arriving in Rome on June 12th. Audrey checked into the Hotel Hasseleur, a favourite of filmmakers and actors, but Audrey claimed it was way over my head, I could never afford them before. On the other hand, Peck, also arriving from Paris alongside his wife Greta and 3 sons, was put up in a villa 15 miles from Rome, which overlooked a vineyard and a marble pool and exotic garden. Peck was uncompromising when it came to his accommodation, travel and expenses. He was also making 3 times what Hepburn made. Filming began on the 23rd of June in the Palazzo Brancaccio, where they shot the embassy scene. Background actors were filled with nobility who had answered their casting call. They brought with them their own gowns and jewels. Wyler had wanted to take the audience quickly through Rome's main sites, which was achieved through the scooter scene, which was added by Ben Hecht. Shooting for this scene began on July 30th and would take 5 days. Vespa had given 2 scooters to the production to use for filming and publicity purposes. Famously, the scene at the Mount of Truth was improvised by Peck, who pretended to have his hand stuck, capturing Byrne's real reaction.
Scene in Rome on a holiday which takes place at the Mouth of Truth. And there's this legend that if you're telling a lie and you put your hand in there...
It'll be bitten off. Just before the take, I said to Willie, would it be too corny if I put my hand in there and then I pulled it out like this, which is an old shtick that Red Skelton used to do all the time.
I had not been told, nor did we rehearse, about what was going to happen in the scene. And so we played the scene, and Greg put his hand in there, and and the scream I let out was good and proper, because it was very funny, but it was also very scary.
Audrey was unsure in her ability as an actor. She mentioned that she was unable to cry on demand for the final scene of the film. They had been filming the scene all night, and for the first time, Wyler raised his voice at her.
Out of the blue, he came over to the car and gave me hell. He said, look, we can't stay here all night if you're not going to... Can't you cry, for God's sake? I mean, you know. Willie had never spoken to me like that, ever, you know, during the picture. And I broke into such sobs, and he shot the scene, and that was it.
Filming did not go without its issues. For a start, it was swelteringly warm, with record heat in Rome that summer. There was also political protests going on and fights in the streets between fascist, communists, and Christian Democrats. Alongside those issues, both tourists and locals wanted to see the film being made. For the scene at the Piazza di Spagna, it was estimated that 10,000 people had gathered to watch them film. Peck said that it felt like acting in a huge amphitheatre before a packed house of rowdies. However, Hepburn reportedly found that she was able to settle in and enjoy it. From what I read, it seems that everyone had a great time on set, with Peck calling it the happiest experience he ever had making a movie. Audrey's son, Sean, claimed that it was a happy time, probably her happier times in Rome. Audrey played around on set and would do cartwheels and tell jokes for the cast and crew. Peck said that Audrey was wacky and funny, a very lovable girl who was always making faces and doing backflips and clowning around. And Wyler said, Audrey was the spirit of the youth, and I knew that very soon the entire world would fall in love with her, as all of us on the picture did. This was already happening back in Hollywood, with the early footage becoming a sensation on the Paramount lot. Everyone was reportedly sneaking away to try and get a sneak peek at the dailies. Audrey spent her spare time in Rome at cafes and at Babington's, an English tea room. She would also often have 5 p.m. whiskey or cold beer, but she'd always be in bed early enough to get 7.5 hours sleep before her early morning start time. There was also rumours of an affair between Peck and Hepburn, which were not helped by Greta leaving during filming. Peck was having an affair, but not with Audrey, but with a French journalist, Veronique, who had interviewed him in Paris, and they were soon to be married. James also visited Audrey most weekends. He would watch Audrey perform and sit in her trailer, as well as play the card game Gin Rummy with Peck in cafes. While he was encouraging of Audrey's career, James did keep writing to Paramount to confirm a finish date so that they could be married. Audrey kept her wedding dress in her Rome wardrobe so that they could be married once filming ended, but she was also needed back in New York to resume acting in Gigi. James feared that there would not be enough time. This fear became true, with the production running overtime. Audrey finished shooting on September 25th, leaving her with just a week to return to New York. As James's family expected a Yorkshire wedding, it would have to be put on hold again. As an early wedding present, Paramount gave Audrey $3,000 worth of costume after she asked Edith Head if she could have it. A present for a wedding that never went ahead, as it was announced on the 15th of December that Audrey and James had broken off their engagement. Moving on to the film's release and legacy. Roman Holiday premiered the following year at the Venice Film Festival on the 20th of August 1953. It was also nominated for the Golden Lion Award. It also had a premiere in New York on August 27th and in London on August 21st, before being released to the general public on September 2nd. The film was extremely popular upon its release, particularly in Japan, where it made back a third of its production costs. It was the second most popular film that September, behind From Here to Eternity, and grossed almost $1 million in September. Audrey was instantly a star, as the cast and crew had predicted. The film was released at a great time, as it played upon the fascination of real-world princesses that was felt at the time. It was released just 2 months after the coronation of Queen Elizabeth, the first globally televised coronation. Publicity was also helped with rumours that the film was inspired by Princess Margaret and British Air Force officer Peter Townshend's scandalous relationship. Rumours that were believed by the British government, who made Paramount record an extra scene to establish Princess Anne was definitely not a member of the British royal family. As film critic Alexander Walker wrote, "No film studio could have bought such publicity." Critically, the film was also a success. It was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actress, and Best Supporting Actor for Eddie Albert. Interestingly, Gregory Peck was not nominated for Best Actor. Roman Holiday won 3 of the 10 awards it was nominated for.
Ladies and gentlemen, in New York City, Miss Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday.
Audrey Hepburn won Best Actress for her first major role.
I want to say thank you to everybody who in these past months and years have helped, guided, and given me so much. I'm truly, truly grateful and terribly happy.
Edith Head won her 5th Oscar for Best Black and White Costume Design for Roman Holiday. The 3rd win was for Best Original Story. Trumbo's contribution was not acknowledged and would not be until 1933. This was at the time when there were separate awards for film story and finished screenplay. Roman Holiday was nominated in both categories, but lost to From Here to Eternity. Best Picture and Best Director were also lost to From Here to Eternity. Albert lost to Frank Sinatra, also for From Here to Eternity. Audrey Hepburn also won Best Actress at the Golden Globes and at the British Academy Film Awards. In 1999, the film was selected for preservation by the United States National Film Registry by the Library of Congress, which is done for films which are culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. In 2020, New York Magazine listed Roman Holiday among the best movies that lost Best Picture at the Oscars. As for Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck, they remained lifelong friends and attended events celebrating one another. Audrey participated in a total of 4 tributes to Peck.
I'm going to see him again in March because the American Film Institute, the AFI, is honouring him in March for life achievement. And naturally, I'm going to fly to Hollywood to pay tribute to my friend.
Audrey claims that she owns everything to Peck.
I owe Greg a great deal, if not everything, because Stars had approval of script and also approval of co-stars or co-actors. And Greg could very well have said at the time, well, you know, just a little dance and perhaps we could get somebody more established.
They presented the Oscars for writing together in 1988 at the 60th Academy Awards.
And without movies, there would not have been 60 glorious years of Academy history.
You're absolutely right, Your Royal Highness.
When Audrey passed away in 1993, Gregory read one of her favourite poems, Unending Love, at her memorial. Audrey went on to make 2 more films with William Wyler, The Children's Hour in 1961 and How to Steal a Million in 1966. Finally, in 2011, the Writers Guild of America officially gave screenwriting credits to Dalton Trumbo. That is all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I plan on making this into a series going through all of Audrey's films, so if you don't want to miss the next one, please be sure to subscribe.